and my module is about green skills. So how can we implement and teach our students green skills through storytelling, but also while fostering and improving other competences that they should have. We should, okay, perfect. Okay, so, uh, sorry, I wanted this, the objectives. So, as you know, our project is connected to early school leaving, to students, the motivation, to motivating students to learn and to overcome difficulties that they have in their learning, in their comprehension and expression skills. So our module also tried to address, like the other modules, the three great domains. So the cognitive domain, and in this case, the cognitive domain is related the environment and the green skills students should have. So as you can see, the first four objectives are cognitive. So it's related to teach students about the environmental issues that are happening not only around them, but in the planet. And also understanding how the problems in the environment affect other problems in our society. So our idea with this module was also to connect environmental problems with, for example, social problems or health problems, to understand that everything is related. And I thought that that was interesting and important for students, because sometimes they see things very separate for each other, and they don't understand how, for example, a problem in the forest is going to affect them. So I think it's good to reflect on how everything is connected. And then we have the storytelling objectives, as you know. So one of the great objectives of our project is to use storytelling to improve the students' competences in learning, in understanding, and in being more well succeeded in various topics in the school. So it's to use stories to different purposes and understand how powerful stories can be. So we also have some objectives related to storytelling, as you will see. And then lastly, we have two affective domain objectives that are three, sorry, there is a space here, but three objectives related to the affective domain, which means that we also have some activities to foster empathy, communication, understanding capabilities, the cooperation between students and the community to reach better results, and also to understand that students, they have their own responsibilities. So it's important to foster the sense of self responsibility, self-awareness, and how they can act to impact the environment. So this is also related with the students gaining more responsibility, being more serious about their place in the community, and understanding that they can make a difference. So as you already saw in the other modules, we have different tools and different methods for implementing the modules. They are all very similar, I think. So in our case, I would say that the one that it's most different is Google Earth, because since we have an activity related to the environment and to see the impact of climate change and climate crisis in our planet, we will use Google Earth. Don't worry, it's simple and it's explained in the module, as you will see, but I thought it was a good and interactive tool to teach students to see the impact of climate change in the environment, because sometimes it's different to hear about the environment and to see what actually is happening. So something interactive is better for them. And then the other tools are very similar to what my colleagues presented. So we are using Google Maps, Google or other searching engine, Canva, Mentimeter, Google Forms, Padlet, and so on. So that's very similar. And regarding the materials, so as the other models are prepared for both a digital and a traditional application, we need digital tools, so computers, tablets, smartphones, and then also some materials for those who want or need to make the activities offline in a more traditional way. So the materials you can see are very simple, mostly writing and crafting materials, so they can write and create something a little bit more artistic. But other than that, just paper, post-its, the normal things that you have at school. Like the other modules, our module is divided in, let's say, 5 phases. The first one, engage, then explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluation. And we try to, how can I say, to intercalate, to mix the part of the green skills with the storytelling, with other competences. So some parts will be more focused on the environment. Then we go to another part which is more related to storytelling and so on. So we will see that they are not always talking about the environment directly, but it's always everything connected, and we try to incorporate everything to make a balanced module. So first, what we do, I underline some important things so you know. So for example, our first activity is called putting on the map. So is to start the discussion about the environmental and sustainability issues. So very simple activity to start the discussion. So the tools that are used in this phase is the digital application are Google Maps, and then a brainstorming tool, which can be Miro or other digital space where you can put ideas and post-its and so on. So you can choose and adapt, of course. But this activity has the purpose of being an introduction to the environmental problems and to lead students to explore maps, trying to understand what is happening in different points of the planet, because sometimes, since we are in Portugal, in our case, and perhaps we haven't seen a lot of the effects of the climate change yet. We have seen some in recent years, but not extreme phenomena. But sometimes we lose sense of what's happening in other sides of the world. That's why we want them to go to Google Maps and have a wider view. So what we ask them to do, we ask them to have some place where they can register their ideas. Here in the digital part is Miro, so they can work in collaboration there, but then internationally can just be a piece of paper to write and leave ideas. But the idea is that they go to Google Maps. They can be done in groups or as you prefer, but they go on Google Maps and they choose an area that they want to explore more. It can be a city, can be a region, can be a continent, but perhaps it's more difficult because it's very wide, but they choose wherever they want. A place that they think that might be affected by climate change, deforestation, pollution, so environmental problem. And they choose this place. And and they go there. So for example, if I choose, I want to go to the middle of Brazil to see the Amazon forest, I go to Google Maps and go to that place, write the name and go. I believe that every student knows how to interact with Google Maps, but still we have the instructions later, so they can learn if they don't know. So they go to this place which they believe is affected by climate change. They take a screenshot or a picture of the place, as you can see, for example. So here, and what we ask them is to save the coordinates, the GPS coordinates of the place they chose. So if they click on these red points, they will see the coordinates. Maybe they don't know very well what coordinates are, or do they know? But well, we ask them to keep this. They can copy this information and keep it in some place. Because they will need this later in another activity. So they do this, and then what they are asked to do, since this is a very introductory and discussion, it's just to start discussing the topic. They will present to their colleagues the place that they chose, what they can see on the map, on the Google Maps that they saw, what they believe is happening on those places. Maybe they saw some news, maybe they know information why it's happening something there or not. So this place is in this part is just this discussion, and they exchange ideas and so on. And then they choose from all the places that were presented, they choose some places to be explored later, because later we will come back to this activity in a similar way. So they should choose which areas they really want to focus on. So we will focus on, I don't know, Brazil, France, I don't know, the deserts and the mountains in Asia, for example. So different places, they choose what they want and they keep those places for later. Okay, so then this is just a guide, so you know how to interact with the tool. I'm not going to show it now because you have it on the guide. And then in the traditional application, it's basically the same thing, but with a real map. So teachers are asked to bring maps in advance. Maybe students will be a bit surprised because younger students are no longer used to use real maps, but it can be a challenge too, so it can be interesting. And they do the same thing. They use some places, they see the coordinates. If they don't know how to do it, I have a link here which can help out to see in the map how to take the coordinates of the map. And then they do the same thing. They discuss about the places that they chose, what's happening there, if they think that that place is being really affected by climate change or not, and so on. So the same thing, but in a traditional way. And then we move on to part B. And part B is focused on storytelling. So our idea with this part is to focus on the reading, expressing, writing, communicating competences of students, because we know it's very challenging for them, and we know that these competences are really important also to promote their interest in school, their motivation, and also to maybe to prevent school leaving and school disengagement. So we want to, in this activity, also to explore these kind of skills and inspire them a little bit with the story that we tell to develop these very important skills, but also apart from these narrative and story language competences, we also want them to understand how stories can be used to change the world. I think that is one of the purposes of our project. So how storytelling can have a real purpose in the world, not only to tell stories for fun, but it can have an impact. And I also thought it was important to use in this part storytelling to have students talk about their personal stories and feelings. Why? Because our project, as we talked, is very connected to students feeling demotivated, feeling far away from school, feeling that they don't like school, being at risk many times to leave school, also because they, depending on cultural or familiar, but also personal reasons, because they don't identify with school or because they have bad things happening at school. So I think that this module is also important to understand how stories can also help us tell our own needs and preoccupations, and also how that can be done in school, because it's important that in school students also feel it's a safe place to do that. So this activity is focused on a story, so they have the story, both they can hear the story, so in the digital part I will show you later, they have a MP3 file with the story they can hear, but they also have the written story, so it can be printed and read in the class. So they read the story or they hear, depending on the application. And the idea is to use the story to first, as I said, to focus on these competences of understanding what is a character, what feelings are these characters feeling, which are the main focus of the action, what's the meaning of the story. So this competence is more related to um, language and comprehension of stories, but also to understand which feelings appear in this story, how the characters express these feelings. And my idea with this module was also that teachers can then use this activity as a starting point to implement a classroom discussion or system or focus group, I don't know, where students can also talk about occupations, needs, and feelings about school. Because if they are able to talk with each other about what they feel about school, what they don't like about school, or what they would like to have in school, maybe that can also have an impact in eliminating or minimizing negative feelings about school. And that's our goal as well. We want them to feel better about school. So I thought that we could connect these two things here. So first look at the story and see what the characters are feeling, and then reflect, how do we feel, how can we express that. So it's a two-part activity. And as I told you, in the digital application we have first they have YouTube video just to understand how the power of stories and how stories are important. It can be optional to show this in the classroom. It depends if the teacher wants to share it, but I think it's a good way to start with the importance of stories. But then they go to the story itself. So this story is a story that we wrote. It's called The Story of the River is the Story of All of Us. So it's a story that tells students a story about a river which is very polluted. It's a lot of pollution, is a lot of garbage, and has impact the life of many people who live in that area and in that community. So it's a story about environment, because this module is about green skills. So we connect here, we use here also the power of storytelling to tell them a very sad story about something that happened, about a river that was completely and was in fact affecting the lives, both in terms of economic and health and so on, the lives of these people who live there. So they listen to the story or they read the story, which is here. Oh, sorry. So it's here. So it's a story. The story is also here, and it can be. Oh, sorry. It can be downloaded, as you can see here, because we created a separate file for the story, and then it will be translated. So don't worry. And the idea is then, sorry. The idea is that let me just go back. So they read the story or they hear the story, and they are asked to reflect about these main things here. So they have a table like this one. So in the digital form, it can be constructed in Padlet, for example, or in another tool. But in the normal traditional way, we designed the table so you can download it and we can write by hand. So don't worry. And the idea is that they should fill this table, identifying the main scenes of the story. So this is good for developing their reading and comprehension skills. So they have to understand what is happening in the story, the main events, happenings of the story, the characters, and then also the feelings of the characters which are in the story, and maybe reflect why that happened. So this also fosters their comprehension and their reflection skills. So they are not just listening or hearing the story very in a passive way, but they are thinking about it. So did that happen? Why did that character feel that way? And also this can also contribute, as you can see, to develop their emotional intelligence and expression, because then you will see the story, and the story shows very different feelings, very different characters, some conflicting feelings. So sometimes a character is very angry, but then is happy, and then is very disappointed. And so they are asked to reflect on these different emotions and how people express them. Because why, like I said, the idea is that then we can make a bridge to the students themselves and ask them also how to reflect on how they can tell their stories, to express feelings, fears, preoccupations about their lives, but also about school. So as I said, this activity is a bit twofold. So in one way, we are teaching them how to read and understand stories and understand the impact of climate change in this specific place. But on the other way, talking about how stories can be useful to them to express the feelings of what they feel about school and other things. So I'm just going on but this is the guide to use in the digital form. So everything is explained. And in the application traditional is the same thing, as I said. So you read the story, it's a bit long, so you can make pauses or just select some bits of the story and give to the students. You can adapt depending on which is best. That's big, sorry. And as I said, then if after they read the story, they do this same table. You had it in the digital form, and now it's here in the traditional way. So you can download here also the link. You can download and fill by hand, but you can also use a A3 paper to just draw the table and ask them to fill the. So advantages you already know. And then the idea, as I said, is to finalize this part of the activity with a discussion not only about the story, about what they learn with the story in terms of environment, in terms of feelings, in terms of what's happening in the story, but also try to let them talk a little bit. So Did you feel empathy with the characters? Why do you think that happened? Do you think, or have you ever felt something similar to the characters in the story? Why? And this also can help them develop their emotional intelligence and also make them express better and understand how communication is important to talk with others. So we have here a little tip. Uh, so then, um, then in activity C, as I said, they go back to the maps. So activity A, as you remember, they go to Google Maps and they select areas to explore. And here we are going back to that part related with the environment. So as you can see, most of the objectives are related with the environment and the green skills. But also we have an effective domain objective related to understand our own responsibility to develop self-awareness, self-responsibility, and make a difference in our own. So, what's the idea? The idea is, as I said, they go back to part A, well, where they start to think about these problems. And if you remember, they chose some places that they wanted to explore. They have the coordinates of those places, and they are going to explore a very interesting, in my opinion, tool, which is the time lapse of Google Earth. I don't know if you know it, but then you can explore it. Which is, let me show you. Years. In this time lapse, it's a tool by Google where you can go and put here, you can see here, you can put the coordinates of the place they chose. So imagine that they chose to go to, I don't know, Alaska. They can put here the coordinates and they go to that place. Then they go and see a satellite image of that place. And if you can see here, they have a timeline. So they can choose the year that they want to visit for, and it goes, I know you cannot see it very well, but it goes since 1984 to 2022. So it's a big timeline, and it's very interesting because now they can see the real impact of the place that they chose and what happened in that period of time, and they can choose. They can play this as a video, so they can see the evolution over the years, but they can also go to a specific year and see what happens. And they can go to different kinds of places, so deserts, cities, icebergs. It depends on what they want to see, and it's very interesting because it's real images of Google Earth, and they can see the real effects of climate change on that place. So it connects to the first activity, but now they are really seeing what happened. And of course, if they go over the years, they will see that many things changed for the worst in most cases, and that's the focus of this activity. So after they go to this time lapse feature, they, as I said, they choose the place. They can see what happened in several years, or they can see the evolution throughout all these years. And then they should prepare a presentation depending on what they found out. So they imagine that they went to Alaska and they registered the main changes that happened there in those years. So you have here some guiding questions that they can try to answer and make a presentation for other students to see, because the idea is that they are divided in groups and they explore a different place, as I said. So they then present to the students the area that they explored, what happened in those years, what has changed since 1984, and why do you think that happened? How do you think it has impacted the people living there? So it also connects with the story. and what do you think will happen in the future if nothing changes? So it gives them a reflection. They can also use Google search to go and go grab more information specific about that place and prepare a presentation, and then they present the findings to the okay, this is Canva, you already know. So traditional way was it's just to provide them pictures in advance that show evolution throughout years, and they do the same exercise. I'm just going to go to part D, which I think it's important. So part D is we come back to the idea is to gather all the findings that they had during these activities. So it's very focused on storytelling, but also on the green skills and the affective skills. So the idea is that now that they understand how stories are built, the importance of storytelling, the idea is that they collect stories from the people in their community. So they go around, they go to their school, their friends, their family, and they try to collect stories somehow related to the environment or to the planet. It can be very simple. For example, do you live in the center of the city? What has changed in the last 10 years? What do you think has improved or not? Or do you live in the near the beach? Do you see any differences? And so on. So they collect stories, personal stories about the or related to the environment. They should interview at least two people, and then they are encouraged to tell the story in a creative and captivating way. So they record the testimonial, the interview with these people, and then they build a story, which is also one of our goals, to tell them how to storytell and to tell stories. So they go to Story Jumper, which is a tool that you have heard before, and they have here all the steps to create their own story based on the interviews that they made. So, and in the end, they of course present the story to the student, to the other colleagues, and in the traditional way, they do the same, but with a physical, in paper storyboard, like similar to what Michaela said. They also have the templates, and they present the stories to the colleagues, and really fast. Just a evaluation activity. So oh, sorry, it's very similar to other modules, I suppose, because it's just an evaluation, but in the digital way, it can be, we prepared a template that can help with some criteria that teachers can use. And then if they want to make it a little bit more interactive, they can use this tool, Mentimeter, which lets them make interactive quizzes and polls and so on, and surveys, and so they can be evaluated in a more fun way. But then if you just want to, of course, do a more traditional evaluation, you just have that evaluation grid that I shared before, and you can use them to guide your evaluation, and they can write feedback or reflection or questions in post-its as well. They can do the evaluation in a big paper on the wall, as you prefer, so it leaves you here with some space for you to adapt to your needs. So yes, I think I'm finished.